What's up? We are back again to share another interesting, shocking, or just strange, but very true story with you on Guilty or Not. Gary Ridgway is an American serial killer, currently imprisoned in the Washington State Penitentiary. In the 80s and 90s, the region of Seattle and Tacoma, Washington experienced a serious heinous crime spree involving the death of over 71 teenage girls. In women, the crime spree sparked coverage in the media, and an abundance of investigations early on. It was clear that most of the cases were connected. Detective assumed that they were dealing with the serial killers.
Just to have her stop and
But how would you do it? What did you think in your head about how you would do it? That's what we're trying to get at. When did you first think about treating your mom violently to get what you wanted her to do?
Probably in 4th grade.
Okay, there we go. Fourth,
the 5th and the 6th was probably up to that grade.
and what was in your mind that you wanted to do to get her to treat you a certain way? What did you want to do to your mom here?
I wanted her to stop being angry at me for not knowing how to...
But she wasn't stopping.
No, she wasn't stopping.
Was she?
No.
She kept picking at you.
She picked
belittling you,
Mm-hmm.
embarrassing you. I mean, that was pretty clear from yesterday.
Mm-hmm. It happened in school, too, so I had...
So what was your way of retaliating against her in your mind? What were you thinking to do to your mom?
I don't know if I was thinking of hurting her. I just wanted her to stop and let me alone. Angry at her for pushing on me to remember, and I just couldn't remember, and I just wanted her to stop.
But she didn't.
But she didn't know.
She didn't stop. So somewhere in the 4th or 5th grade, that sense of helplessness that you had not being able to get her to stop would very likely have produced thoughts of taking back some power and control over your mom to get the bitch to shut up. I mean, I'm sorry, but Gary, that's what we hear, and that's what one of the things we're looking to get a better understanding of.
During that thing, I usually took it out on other things instead of hurting her. Living things, killing animals.
Okay.
Killing animals. I stabbed a kid one time.
Okay.
Just stabbed a kid with a knife.
Tell me about that.
It was down by Chinook, where I used to go to school, and boy was playing. I stabbed him in the side and didn't kill him, and I think it must have been about 6th grade, or I think it was 7th grade, and that was at some time I was, breaking out windows, throwing rocks at windows at school.
Not interested in that.
But that's what I took my aggression on. I couldn't take it on my mom. I had to take it on my animals and
How many
the
animals
kids.
did you kill?
I killed a lot of birds, but one cat suffocated in ice chest, and shot babies at dogs, and to hurt them, and threw rocks at my brother about that time. I think I was getting out of that though.
You couldn't take your aggressions out on your mom.
No, I couldn't.
But you could think about it.
I could think about it, and
What'd you think?
I thought about hurting her, so she'd shut up and leave me alone, and then
How did you think about hurting your mom?
killing her.
And how would you do that?
I thought with my hands, or I didn't have no guns or anything, so I didn't. It had to have been hands or.
And then after she was dead, what were you going to do in your head?
In my head, I don't know what I would do. I just wanted her to stop. One time there, they were going to put me in a special school. I didn't want that. My dad and my mom were arguing about it all the time. And it was for retarded people, and I wasn't retarded, I don't think. So I was mad at them for wanting to put me away from other kids. And wanting to hurt her. And
30-year-old Travis Alexander was a salesman in Mesa, Arizona, when his life was taken from him on June 4, 2008. Months before his demise, Travis was dating a woman named Jodi Arias. Both traveled for work between Arizona and California, were often forced to hold long-distance relationships which inevitably caused a strain on them. Most friends and relatives of the couple described their relationship in a negative way, suggesting toxic traits and abusive fighting. The couple were on-off, but in June of 2007, Travis broke up with Jodi for good. The pair still engaged in an intimate activity together and would often hang out. The boundaries of their relationship are blurry, but it seemed that Travis no longer had feeling for Jodi.
Because of how the law is written, but I didn't, the whole time I was fairly confident I wouldn't get premeditation, because there was no premeditation.
It seemed, and you got a lot of questions from the jury, it seemed like some of those jurors didn't believe what you were telling them, didn't believe your story.
Mm-hmm.
What are your thoughts on that?
I can understand that, I think, because of what the lies that I told in the beginning, to try to cover up this, cover up that, hide things that I didn't want to be known, made public.
Why did you lie at the beginning?
Well, mostly because I was scared, but I also didn't want certain aspects of my relationship with Travis to come out, and I was ashamed of what had happened, how it escalated. I don't know if there's really a word, at least in my vocabulary, to describe it, but I think mortified is one of the closest words. Ashamed, things like that.
Did you avoid eye contact with Travis's family while you were in there, or did you make eye contact, and what are your thoughts on that?
I typically avoided eye contact. Travis comes from a family where they all sort of look a lot alike, so when I see their faces, I see Travis, and I see the man that abused me, and I don't want to look at that.
Is it hard? Do you have a sense of where the public feeling is about you, whether you're liked or not liked? I mean,
I get the sense that there is great division on both sides, but I believe the majority is against me.
what are your thoughts on that?
A psychologist once explained to me that society has this need to persecute people. They get some sort of gratification from it, so there might be something going on there. Beside that, I don't really, it's so convoluted that we could talk for hours on that, but it just is what it is.
In just a recent, and we'll talk about Twitter in a second, but in just a recent tweet you were talking about, you just mentioned the word suicide. I mean, how are you feeling right now?
Well, I'm not really looking forward to what comes next, but...
Explain that to me.
Well, it's just more court, just keeps going on and on. I just wanted to get it over with.
Are you focusing on the court, or are you focusing on what could be the worst outcome for you?
Well, the worst outcome for me would be natural life. I would much rather die a lot sooner than later. Longevity runs in my family, and I don't want to spend the rest of my natural life in one place. You know, I'm pretty healthy, I don't smoke, and I would probably live a long time. So that's not something I'm looking forward to. I said years ago that I'd rather get death than life, and that still is true today. I believe death is the ultimate freedom, so I'd rather just have my freedom as soon as I can get it.
So you're saying you actually prefer getting the death penalty to being in prison for life?
Yes.
That might surprise some people.
Well, I think that if you look at things eternally, it's not as scary. I mean, we do get attached to our lives, and I'm attached to mine. But I don't know, I can't fathom staying in one spot for the rest of my life. So I've been everywhere. And I think it would just drive me a little crazy.
You had some clashes with Juan Martinez. You kind of went after him on Twitter a little bit. What are your thoughts on Juan?
Well, prior to trial, I respected Juan as a very capable attorney, even though he's done some very shady things in my case, as far as hiding evidence and failing to disclose certain things, hoping it would just go away. But in the end, what does it matter? It didn't help my case, as far as all the evidence that did come to light eventually. In trial, I think that his accusation that I was seeking fame is absurd. I remember a hearing we had in 2011 when he stood up before the court and said, "I don't control the media. If it were up to me, I'd be on TV every night." So I think he's the one seeking fame, not me. But, you know, it is what it is.
You had some pretty tough things, I would imagine, to go through in the trial. During the trial, there were photographs of you displayed. I noticed you tended to look away. What were you thinking when those photographs were being flashed up in front of everybody?
I wanted to crawl under the table and just disappear.
If you had to look at some of the tougher parts of what you've been through for the last 4 months, what would they be?
Just coming to fully understand what I've put people through, my family and everyone else as well. That's the part I'll always regret.
Tell me more about that. What do you mean?
Well, just the way everything happened. I think that if I had just been honest from the beginning, I'd be in a different place. And so would everyone else. And because of what I've done, a lot of people will hurt for a long time.
It's got to be a tough time for you, obviously, just learning what happened. But you're telling me that if you would have done things differently, do you regret how you went about doing things after Travis was killed, after you killed Travis?
Yeah, I think that I was just freaked out. Well, I know I was freaked out. I didn't know what to do. I knew that I couldn't just carry on as normal, but I tried to do that. I tried to act that part until, you know, until everything came down on me. I just couldn't imagine going to my family and saying, hey, look what happened, or going to the police and saying, here, arrest me. I was just horrified with what had happened, and it was difficult to face that I had been pushed to that point and that I could be capable of something like that.
And let's talk a little bit about what happened after you were at Travis's that night and that day. A lot of people who have talked to me about it have said, how could she have gone up and been with another man, basically 24 hours after this? How were you able to put that behind you and basically go on a date?
I don't think I so much put it behind me as I just sort of checked out. I hardly remember that day. I don't remember it being nearly as intimate as he described. I remember falling asleep and taking a nap, and he was laying next to me. I remember feeling, it's strange, but I remember feeling safe. He wasn't going to snap. He wasn't going to, take advantage of me and try to do things I wasn't comfortable with. I just felt safe with that person, but I knew that, it's not like I went up there because I was hoping to pursue a relationship. I went up there because I thought, oh crap, I need to keep my schedule. So I went up there almost because I felt a sense of obligation inside in order to keep up the pretense, not because I was going off to have fun.
But it's odd, even to me, and I don't know you at all, but I feel like I know a little bit about you. But you really look at your hands and you realize what's happened.
Yeah.
And at that point, you say to yourself, I've got to go up and meet this person. I'm going to keep that appointment. I'm going to keep that date. I don't understand how that goes through your mind.
Well, what happened was I slowly began to come to while I was in the desert. And when I found my charger and I turned my phone on, there were tons of voicemails. One from Leslie, I think a few from Leslie, maybe one from Ryan. And I realized these people are wondering where I am. And I just felt like I needed to buy myself some time and figure out what had happened. I was very shocked. I didn't know what I was doing.
I'd like to go over just a couple of things in the case, if I could. When your grandparents' gun went missing, that's what most people point to as the point where you basically made the decision that I'm going to go down there and do this. What do you say to people when they make that point?
Well, I was really hoping the defense would call my sister because I spent the day with her. And we weren't at the house when that happened. We weren't even in Wairika. We were out of town. We were actually in no town. We were out in the middle of almost nowhere at a Buddhist monastery near the border of Oregon and California, taking pictures. I was really hoping my defense team would recover those pictures. They're on another hard drive that stopped working, that they never made an issue of. Those photos on there are date and time stamped, and they show that I'm out of town during that time. So that was my hope, that we could show the jury that I was nowhere near that area. That's what I was really hoping.
So you're sticking by that part of your story?
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Let's talk about the gas cans. That's another thing that keeps being brought up all the time. Was there a third gas can?
There was initially when I purchased it,
Right.
but I really did return it. I got $13 and change back, and I went on my way.
A lot of people are saying, who carries gas in the trunk of their car?
I didn't fill it up until I realized I was going to be driving across the desert on a highway alone that I've never driven at night. And it's something that we began to do when I moved to the desert because we didn't want to get stranded somewhere. Just being from the coast, 120 degrees is a shock to your system. So we sort of would travel with provisions and things like that. So not always gas, but I was taking a road that I'd never traveled before. And suddenly being safe was more important than saving a few dollars on gas, which was my initial goal.
And the other thing that keeps coming up, or the jury seemed to have issues with as well, was the lack of memory over the attack.
Mm-hmm.
Can you explain that to me?
Sure. I think it's been described how certain memories come back with time and rather than get worse. And I've experienced a little bit of both. Memories have come back. It's not just completely blank. Little things have come back here and there that I remember.
Have things come back since we began talking about this, since the trial started?
No, these things, well, I can't think of anything specifically. These things have come back within the last year, 2 years. Things have been popping up and coming back, and I testified to that a little bit. Just different scenarios that have research. I don't want to get into the details. So I can't explain it. I think I have a good memory, and it's almost like I blacked out, but I mean, obviously wasn't unconscious.
You're talking about your defense a little bit, and you wish they would have done this and done that. Are you happy with your defense?
I'm grateful for my defense. They've worked very hard. Not 100%, but they've worked very hard.
What would you have changed?
There is a man who saw me with bruises all over. I would have made every effort to find him, and they didn't. There are other people who saw me with bruises. My friends, my sisters, and the defense didn't call them for their own reasons, and I think that that would have corroborated some of the things that I said. On the hard drive that we just discussed, the one that was not part of my trial, there are photographs during that time, and I think there might have been a photograph on there. Maybe, maybe not. We wouldn't know unless we looked.
Of your bruises, you're saying?
Yeah. I took pictures of myself during that time, not specifically for that purpose, but just being on the road, and I just keep thinking maybe it was in that photo. Tons of things.
You know, what I hear from women a lot is if she was getting beat up, why didn't she call the police?
That's probably what you hear from women who have not been in my situation and been abused. I think at that time, if I can put myself back in that mind frame at that time, my fear of calling the police is that I would be seen as overly dramatic, or I would make an enemy of Travis, and I really just wanted us to be able to be friends, ultimately. I was scared of the consequences for him, and scared a little bit for me of calling the police and getting them involved, getting the law involved. And I didn't want that to happen to him. I just wanted him to go on and be happy and be successful, and I wanted the same for myself.
Let's talk about your family for a little bit. Your mom has been there for you every day in the courtroom. What are your thoughts on her?